In 2011, I was diagnosed with dysautonomia and POTS. Before I was diagnosed with POTS, I was a fully functioning person. I had a social life, I had lots of friends, I worked full time, I was able to participate in any activity. I think I took things for granted because one day I was diagnosed with POTS and my entire life was turned upside down and I became a disabled person. I was pregnant with my second child, and at the end of the pregnancy, I started not to feel well. I knew something was wrong, and I kept telling the doctor something wasn't right with my body. They just said, you're pregnant, you're about to have a baby, you're fine. But I knew I wasn't fine. Every time I stood up, I always felt like I had to sit down. My heart rate was 130 plus at times when I would stand up. I had to look up these symptoms myself and say, I have POTS. I know I have POTS. I would tell doctors I have POTS, and they would say, what is POTS? I became a person who had to resort to using a walker and think about every second of the day of what my activity was going to be.
It's amazing, so amazing how I've survived this road. Feel the fever, I can feel it down inside my soul, and I will be the one to build you up. I'll build you up.
The biggest issue with POTS is that your brain doesn't send the signal, the proper signal, to pump the blood back up to your heart and your head where it belongs. My body doesn't do that. What happens to me is my brain sends the wrong message and all the blood will pool down to my feet. I could probably stand there about 5 minutes now until all of a sudden my head starts to feel dizzy and I'm about to pass out. So I have to squat. POTS is a syndrome and not a disease because it's a collection of all these unrelated symptoms like nausea, tachycardia, vomiting, migraines, fatigue, debilitating fatigue, lightheadedness, vertigo, fainting, incontinence, gastrointestinal problems. So they're all unrelated, and when you have them all at the same time, you feel sick, like a sick person, and often people have these symptoms every single day. My husband was petrified at first, as I was petrified, with all these unanswered questions about what was happening to my body and what did that mean for our life and our marriage and me and my ability to take care of my family and my children.
The first year or two where she was learning what POTS was and how to deal with it was the biggest challenge when it came to doing any type of family activity. But over the last 2 years, we've learned how to manage it, not just as an illness, but as a family. Wendy has done such a good job of managing POTS that I sometimes forget that she even has it. And it's in those moments where we really have these true, just powerful sort of emotional moments with our kids where you can step back and say, it's incredible that we're enjoying this because a year ago we couldn't even imagine being where we are.
I'm not afraid of darkness anymore. I'm not afraid of darkness anymore.
It's through POTS that we sort of learn how to really appreciate, I guess, the moments when Wendy feels well and when we can, as a family, sort of forget that POTS is this daily visitor that just sticks with us wherever we go.
POTS can strike at any time. It is the most unpredictable illness. If I go food shopping, well, I have to think about what time of day am I going to go? When is it going to be the least crowded? If there is a line, I have to squat. I'll look at all the products down below so it doesn't look so obvious that I'm squatting. And what is that woman doing? She looks so weird. I feel so weird doing it. But inside, what that does to you, it's hard to feel disabled. When you don't look disabled. The protocol for someone who has dysautonomia is to exercise. So telling someone who can barely walk or catch a breath or stand that they need to exercise is Herculean. A doctor told me that we need to get you exercising. We need to get you moving. That's the way you're going to feel better. But that was a huge disconnect for me. And I said, that's impossible. I can't stand. How am I going to exercise if I can't stand? And he said, little by little. Over 1 million people have POTS. POTS is more common than MS or Parkinson's disease. But nobody knows about it. No doctors know enough information about it. 37,000 people have ALS. Everyone knows what ALS is. Nobody knows what dysautonomia is or POTS. My mission is to raise as much money and as much awareness as possible to help find a cure for POTS. I don't want anybody to have to suffer. There are too many people suffering. Too many people who their lives are just passing by because they're too sick. And doctors aren't validating or diagnosing them. I want to find a cure.